Hello students, welcome to the digital lecture about significant figures. In this lecture we'll be learning about what significant figures are, when they are important and why they're important, and also about scientific notation. In chemistry there are two types of numbers, measured numbers and exact numbers. Measured numbers, as you would expect, are when you use a measuring tool to determine the quantity. These measured numbers, because they're made using a measuring tool, contain a specific amount of important digits, or significant figures. For example, if you measure the length of something, it might come to a measured value of 15 meters. There are 2 digits in this number, so there are 2 significant figures. When a measuring tool is not used to determine a quantity, we call that an exact number, and that has so many important digits that we don't need to worry about it. It's exact. We can obtain exact numbers in 2 different ways, either by counting. For example, there are exactly 2 soccer balls because we counted them, 1, 2, or we use the defined relationship that's exact. In 1 meter, there are exactly 100 centimeters. All of the metric system relationships are exact. Significant figures, as I mentioned, are the digits and numbers that we get from making measurements. Whether measuring length or volume or mass, they all require measuring tools, so they have a certain number of important digits. Scientists use Sig Figs to measure data for very specific reasons. They want their data to be accurate, meaning very close to the actual answer. They also want their data to be precise, or precisely made, with as many significant figures as possible, using the most detailed measuring device available. They also use significant figures to make sure that they're measuring their data consistently. Whether it's one scientist or an entire group of scientists, when they use a measuring tool, they should get the same number of significant figures, so an accurate, precise, and a consistently made measurement. Calculations that involve measured numbers that have significant figures will have answers that reflect the number of significant figures that were used in the original values to give a correct number of significant figures for the final answer in the calculation. The number of significant figures that are determined by a measuring tool are limited by the measuring tool itself, basically how many lines are on the measuring tool. The more lines, the more significant figures. When we make a measurement using a measuring tool, we use all the lines on the measuring device, and we estimate 1 more digit in between the lines. For example, if we wanted to measure the length of the screw in centimeters using a meter stick, we would look at the screw and say it's at least 5 centimeters, but not quite 6. Because the tenths places are marked on our measuring device, we know with certainty that we can measure 5.1 centimeters. But it's not exactly on the 5.1 line, it's also not quite at the 5.2 line. So we would estimate 1 digit in between the lines, and that estimated digit can be different for each scientist making the measurement. When I make this measurement, I measure the length to be 5.12 centimeters. You might disagree and say it's 5.13 centimeters, but the important part is we have the same number of known digits from the lines themselves and the same estimated value. There are 3 significant figures, or we measure the hundredths place anytime we use this measuring tool. This is a table full of values. Some are measured numbers, some are exact numbers. At this point in the video, please pause the video and identify if these values are measured or exact. Pause now. Unpause. I will now explain how I determine whether these numbers are measured or exact. 16.5 meters is a measured number because I used a measuring or a meter stick to determine it. It has 3 significant figures. 3 drops of saline, on the other hand, is an exact number because we count drops. The fact that there are 100 cubic centimeters in 1 liter is a relationship in the metric system, so that is also exact. A red blood cell has a diameter of 0.006 centimeters is also measured, as is the temperature of a patient, since a thermometer was used to make that measurement. And the fact that a dose of medicine is 2 pills is exact, because 2 pills are counted numbers. If you have any questions about whether something is measured versus exact, bring them to class. At this point, please go to Canvas and either print or download the Significant Figures activity and complete this for homework. It will be due Tuesday at the beginning of class. If you're unable to make it to campus, please complete it individually. But if you are able to meet with a study group to work on this activity, that is best. It'll be easier to complete the activity, and you'll learn more if you work in a group. I'll see you in class.